Refused to fund sister's $60,000 wedding, so mom threw scalding coffee in my face. My fiancé walked in and exposed my 3.5-year financial secret. Nobody tells you about your mother's packed room assault. The physical sensation precedes the embarrassment, horror, and slow, terrible realization of what transpired in front of your extended family, your sister's future in-laws, and half a dozen women from your mother's country club who have known you since elementary school. Burning commenced. I was burned instantly and intensely on my left face and jawline, soaking through the ivory blouse collar I had ironed for 40 minutes to seem professional. Looking polished was my goal. I wanted to appear accomplished and independent, as I had taken almost a decade to become. I yelled. No word. Use noise. Victims of near-boiling liquid being hurled at their faces create a guttural animal sound. Room went quiet. It was the oppressive silence after an inevitable event. My mother, Susan, stood across the appetizer table with her hands in the air and the empty porcelain coffee cup in her palm. She stared at me, her oldest daughter, burning, dripping, and staring back at her in shock with a dark crimson face and a heaving chest, and said the 7 words I've been hearing. Now look what you made me do. Start at the beginning or near to it to comprehend my family's breakdown. My name is Claire Vance. My age is 33. I co-founded Boston financial district venture capital firm Apex Ventures, which manages $900 million. Money didn't precede me. From a typical 4-bedroom Wellesley, Massachusetts suburb house, Mother Susan ran our household like a Fortune 500 PR business and treated me like a mistake. Dad Arthur was a mid-level commercial real estate appraiser. Amherst was difficult with merit scholarships, federal Pell Grants, and 3 part-time jobs. I archive microfilm at the college library, haul prime rib every Friday and Saturday night till 3 in the morning at a downtown steakhouse, and tutor macroeconomics undergrads. I graduated with highest honors, worked 8-0-hour weeks as an entry-level analyst at a boutique private equity firm, got my MBA from Harvard at night, and spent 9 years building the professional network and track record that allowed me to co-found Apex Ventures with 2 senior partners in 2020. Chloe, 26, is my younger sister. She is beautiful, kind, and has only worked 11 months. Her Emerson College Communications and Media Studies degree was totally sponsored by my parents. She worked at boutique marketing agencies since graduation, paying for her tuition, room, board, exorbitant sorority dues, and a 6-month study abroad semester in Paris that I remember being emailed with a casual, "Isn't it just wonderful news?" She's my mother's daughter in a million subtle ways I've tried to ignore as an adult. Dr. David Chen, my fiancé, is 36. Massachusetts General Hospital ER trauma surgeon trained by Johns Hopkins. He has unnerving quiet competence from a decade of making split-second, life-or-death judgments while covered in blood. He's the most stable I've met. He was the only person on earth besides my estate attorney and personal accountant who knew the shocking extent of what I had been quietly doing for my family for 3.5 years. I maintained it that way on purpose. Late fall, 2020 began the secret. My dad randomly called me Tuesday afternoon. It was unusual. My father rarely phoned me without a reason because my mother managed family information as an air traffic controller runs a busy runway. This call was from his cell phone, and his voice was thin and compressed, something I hadn't heard since I was a teenager. "Claire," he shakily said. "We have a situation. Their mortgage." Apparently, they aggressively refinanced the house in 2017 to pay for Chloe's extravagant Paris semester and my mother's decade-long yearning for a huge, custom-built sunroom extension. The new monthly payment was $2,850. The epidemic cut my father's appraisal commissions. Late payments for 5 months. Bank announced foreclosure. He asked me not to tell my mother he called. I wasn't asked for cash. He stated the truth like a broken man with no options. Because he was my father and I had money, I did what I always did. I fixed. Miranda Sterling, my downtown Boston Sterling and Hayes attorney, was called immediately. We quickly created the Oak Creek Family Revocable Trust. We carefully built it so the bank would think the massive mortgage payments came from an automated disbursement account without identifying me or my firm. November 2020 saw the first payout. Payments have been made every month on the first, 40 months constant. It took $115,000 to pay off the huge debt, late fees, and monthly payments. Not told anyone. Not even David. Not immediately. He found it 10 months into our relationship, when he accidentally saw Miranda's quarterly statement on my home office desk. He asked me what I was doing while sitting on the couch with the directness of a man who spends his days saving fatalities. Told him all. His silence was long. "Does your mother know?" "No," I answered. "Does Chloe?" "No." "Are you ever planning to tell them?" Looking down at my hands. "What would actually change if I did?" David pondered. This honesty, which lets him think before answering uncomfortable questions, is one of my many admirations. His final sigh was, "Probably nothing good." "Exactly," I said. He nodded slowly. He wasn't insistent. He hugged me and said, Okay. What do you need from me? That was over 2 years ago. I fully paid off Chloe's private education loans surreptitiously. $38,500, processed through the same Oak Creek Trust, with a cryptic memo line reading Federal Loan Forgiveness Initiative disbursement. Chloe Googled the phrase, thought she had magically qualified for some obscure government relief program, and immediately financed a new luxury SUV. I never corrected her misconception. I'm meticulously detailing Chloe's engagement party's twisted geometry to help you understand. Non-selfish daughter. I was not a selfish daughter. However, my mother threw boiling coffee at me. That morning's hospital duty was tough for David. Since he was in the ER until 1 p.m., he went straight to the party in his street clothes. David warned me that trauma shifts make him late. The ER doesn't care about weekend plans. Promised to arrive by 2:30 p.m. Around 1 p.m., party began. I arrived on time at 1 p.m. wearing that crisp ivory silk shirt and well-tailored black trousers and carrying a $600 Breville espresso machine that Chloe had mentioned only once over 10 months before. I had spent over an hour carefully selecting it. I immediately took note on my phone so I know when she said it. I write down minor things about the people I love because I've always paid attention to what they want, even when they ignore me. Mother met me at the door. She stored her diamond tennis bracelet and silk-wrapped dress for special occasions. She vibrated with the frantic social energy she gets at huge parties. She performed with excitement and depth. She harshly air-kissed my face, saying my hair was acceptable, and peeked over my shoulder to tell David to park the car. He's coming straight from MGH. He'll be here around 2:30, I said. She grumbled, of course he will, judging my fiancé's demanding medical career. In I went. A packed house. The room comfortably held 75 people. Extended relatives, college friends, nosy neighbors, vague acquaintances, and newcomers. Everything was rearranged around a new furniture layout to make my parents' living room look bigger and wealthier. Good crystal vases carried large flowers. My mother rented expensive champagne flutes from a Boston party supply company. In the center was Chloe, wearing a stylish sundress that cost more than my first month's rent at my tiny apartment, laughing, bright, and in her element. Her fiancé, Liam, stood at the kitchen island with an expensive craft beer, loudly backslapping my uncles like he was auditioning. He wasn't qualified. After over a year, I had no strong view of Liam other than that he smiled too much at people when they said something he wanted to agree with and always searched for someone more important to talk to. Have some sparkling water. Politely greeting my relatives and uncles, I spent 30 agonizing minutes having the same shallow discussion I've always had. Conversations that need you to respond yet not become emotionally exhausted. My mother grabbed my arm at 1:45 p.m. Help me with the charcuterie board, she added. As she dragged me to the kitchen, I realized this wasn't about preserved meats. She ran past the kitchen island and shoved me into my father's study, a narrow space off the main hallway with dusty bookcases, a hefty wood desk, and a lethargic atmosphere for processing bills and avoiding marital talks. Since my father was inside, I knew this confrontation was pre-planned. Mom closed the large wooden door behind us, snapping it firmly. She turned. She grins. She utilized her business-strong grin to get what she wanted from you and make you think she was scamming you. Her statement, Chloe's wedding is going to cost $60,000, was like the morning weather forecast. My face was neutral. Okay. We thought you would want to contribute the funds. I regarded her. I then looked at my father, who was staring at the oriental rug's intricate designs with the terror of a man who would rather be anywhere else. Just no, I said. Suddenly, the fake smile twitched. Claire, be reasonable. No, Mom, I am actively planning my own wedding. David and I have a strict budget and I am absolutely not pulling tens of thousands of dollars from my own savings to fund Chloe's extravagant party. Not after everything. After smiling, a bitter line appeared. You have saved absolutely every penny for yourself, for years, she added. My voice was calm. I practiced this voice subconsciously for 33 years. My college was funded by crushing federal loans and 2 a.m. diner shifts. My MBA was earned on nights and weekends while I worked 80 hours a week. Everything I have, I built with my own two hands. You know perfectly well that family helps family, she approached. I completely agree, I answered coldly, which is exactly why I would appreciate it if you would step aside and let me leave this room. The door is blocked. You have more money than you even know what to do with, Claire. You're a founding partner at a massive firm. Got my water? You don't actually know anything about what I have. The answer is no, Mom. It is not going to change, no matter how long we stand in here. Let's just go back to the party. She stared at me silently for 4 seconds. I counted mentally. 1, 2, 3, 4. She reopened the door and stormed into the bustling living room without speaking. I followed her out without realizing what she was about to do, which was a terrible mistake. She entered the crowded room center. She didn't shout. She needn't. In large groups, the conversation pauses every 20 minutes. A moment of calm. She entered like a beacon. "I have to say something to everyone," she said, "because I truly think it needs to be said." It felt warm, like a dagger plunged into your side for a few seconds. My oldest daughter, Claire, my incredibly successful, wealthy executive daughter, has just been asked to help make her little sister's upcoming wedding the beautiful celebration it truly deserves to be. And she has looked us in the eye and told us no. The words lingered as she paused. "I just want everyone here today to fully understand exactly where we are as a family." About 75 people looked at me. My chest felt the collision before my brain did. The peculiar, terrible, crushing strain of public humiliation and exposure. Years of painstakingly building armor against which I was clearly not strong enough. Room-wide, Chloe's eyes sparkled. She didn't know about the ambush, I realized, or she played unaware with great theatrical devotion. Not sure which. I guess Liam didn't understand his natural smug corner grin. From the hallway, my father looked at the flooring transfixed. "Let's talk about this privately," I said. My hands were shaking violently, but I spoke firm. "Mom, this is absolutely not the time or the place." "You want privacy?" she screeched. She abruptly faced the ornate side table, serving lots of coffee, because my appearance-obsessed mother always had formal coffee service at events. Heavy silver carafe, tea variety, and elegant porcelain cups. I had sat with this ordinary home detail at 100 family occasions without comprehending its weaponization potential. Grabbed a steaming black coffee. Her gaze was fixed on mine. She threw it. I remember 20 minutes of jagged, jumbled pieces. Stunning pain. People gasped 75 times. There was a massive family trust. I waited with a racing heart. When Eleanor died in 2011, you were a college sophomore working hard. She left her entire estate split in half. Half to your mother. He choked up tears. And half to you. The room fell silent after murmuring again. Those trying to escape the front door froze. I repeated, half to me, ash tasting. Your mother. Without looking at me, looked at my sneakers. She told the estate attorney that you wanted absolutely nothing to do with the family. She told him you had voluntarily waived your claim. That you had signed a formal legal disclaimer relinquishing your half of the inheritance. I whispered, "I didn't sign anything," blood rushing. "I know you didn't," he sobbed, "she signed it for you. She forged your signature. She told the lawyers you were entirely estranged and unreachable." He stopped crying by covering his mouth with shaking palms. "The total estate was $420,000, Claire. Your rightful half was $210,000. I felt underwater listening to the room's huge number echo. "She stole my inheritance," I said, not a query. Nodded once. The heavy, agonizing nod of a weak man who has carried a criminal secret for 13 years and weighs its terrible cost daily. "She used your money for the massive sunroom addition," he exclaimed. "And she used the rest to pay for Chloe's expensive private college tuition, the Paris trip, and her own country club dues." I didn't even find out what she had done until 2 years later when I accidentally found the estate paperwork hidden in her desk. But by then, the money was completely gone. Every cent. He looked at me with a sad face. "I should have told you. I should have called the police. I should have done something. I have spent 13 years, he gasped. "I am so sorry, Claire." He was my focus for ages. I considered $210,000. I remembered the depressing 2 a.m. diner shifts. Instant ramen was on my mind for 3 years. My heavy federal student loans and Harvard MBA debt, which I had paid off 4 years earlier, came to mind. I remembered their 40 months of secretly paying their $2,850 mortgage to avoid homelessness. I remembered the $38,500 I secretly paid to clear Chloe's name. I imagined my life and stress less if I had been given $210,000 at 20. I realized I would have done it anyway. I am me and she is her. "Did you keep the forged paperwork?" I asked. I scared him with my calm, emotionless speech. His eyes blinked fast. "What?" "The original estate documents. The legal disclaimer form with my forged signature on it. Do you still have the physical copies?" He looked at me like I spoke another language. Very slowly, he nodded. "In the locked filing cabinet in my office." "Yes. I kept every single piece of paper." I nodded once. I faced David. David stared at me with protective rage in his dark eyes. I said, "Okay," facing my father. "Go into your office right now, put those documents in a folder, and hand them to me. Or I will call the police to this house immediately and have them search the property with a warrant." He didn't argue. He sped down the hall. That night at 6:45 p.m., I called Miranda Sterling, my attorney. On David's Beacon Hill Apartments plush sofa, I applied a fresh ice pack to my injured cheek. My work laptop was on the coffee table, and I had a massive glass of Cabernet I hadn't touched. Miranda is 54. For 28 years, she aggressively practiced Boston estate and family law. She is unique in having heard every horrible thing a family member can legally do to another person and lost all shock while still having a scary revenge. Shared everything. The party. That coffee. Mortgage disclosure. A confession. Stole $210,000. She paused on the phone for 8 seconds. Miranda said, "She forged your legal signature on an estate disclaimer to misappropriate $210,000. Claire, just so we are perfectly clear, that is textbook felony estate fraud. It is grand larceny." "I am aware," I whispered. "With the original documentation your father just handed you, assuming the ink holds up to basic scrutiny, we have an absolute slam-dunk civil claim. Honestly, we have a massive criminal case, depending entirely on how aggressive the Suffolk County District Attorney feels this quarter." "I know," I answered. "Do you want me to forward you the scans tonight?" "Not tonight," she moaningly. "Tonight, you need to rest and let your fiancé check that burn. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., you are coming into my office, and we are going to draft a lawsuit that will make your mother wish she had never been born." We spoke 40 more minutes. Miranda clarified everything lawful. If fraud was actively concealed and recently discovered in Massachusetts, the statute of limitations can be told. Civil recovery actions differ greatly from sending the entire case to the DA for criminal prosecution, the legal definition of unjust enrichment, and asset seizure timelines. After hanging up the phone, David came from the kitchen and sat alongside me. He was quiet, just sat with his shoulder to mine. One of his better attributes. He understands physical presence without words. Years of sitting in antiseptic hospital waiting rooms with grieving families develop this gift. "Last, what are you thinking right now?" I stared at the black TV across the room. "I'm thinking that I spent 13 years of my life grinding myself into dust, building a massive career from absolute scratch, entirely because I truly believed I had no safety net. Because I thought nobody was ever going to help me. Looking down at my hands. And this entire time, my mother had $210,000 of my own money sitting in her custom sunroom and my sister's sorority dues. And even after all that, I still quietly paid her mortgage for 3 years just so she wouldn't lose her house." "Yeah." David massaged my back. I gazed at the dark red liquid in the wine glass and put it down. "I'm also thinking," I said, "that she is 62 years old, and she just woke up on an ambulance stretcher in front of her entire social circle. And my father is a broken coward who has been carrying this guilt for 13 years, and finally broke down and handed me the loaded gun." Eye contact with David. "I am going to file the civil claim. I am going to ruthlessly recover every single penny I am legally owed, plus interest. And then, I am going to walk away from them forever." David waited for me to finish. I said, "I'm not going to send her to federal prison," wiping my good cheek. "Not because she doesn't deserve to sit in a cell. She absolutely does. But because I refuse to spend the next 5 years of my life sitting in criminal courtrooms thinking about her. I want my money back, and I want her gone." David gave me a long, quiet look. "Okay," he said. I murmured, Is it the right call?" Feeling little. He clearly said, "It's your call," kissing my forehead, which automatically makes it the right one. He hugged me tight to his chest. I cried and leaned toward him. Boston was outside on a lovely spring evening. The slight, relaxing hum of city traffic coming up through the windows, the distinctive, gorgeous amber light that only comes through high-rise windows in an apartment you bought with your own money, in a life you constructed from nothing. David murmured, "We still have a wedding to plan," into my hair. "We do," I sniffled. He whispered, "Our strict budget, right?" "Our strict budget," I admitted, smiling. 6 months later, Miranda Sterling filed the massive civil complaint in Suffolk County Superior Court. It was early September. My father provided the original estate documents, bogus disclaimer form, bank transfer records, and damning email communication between my mother and the deceased estate counsel without Miranda asking. He participated in all discovery processes. I think that was his first truly moral and decent act in almost a decade, and he realized this was his only way to achieve tragic redemption. Settlement was reached before court. My mother desperately hired Greg, an anxious, sweating local attorney who probably spends most of his billable hours defending minor traffic citations and unpleasant suburban DUIs. He looked embarrassingly out of place against Miranda Sterling. Greg paled and demanded a private recess with his client as Miranda calmly slid the large, meticulously organized evidence binder across the conference table, complete with faked signatures, bank tracing, and a drafted criminal referral to the district attorney on top. He suggested unconditional settlement 10 minutes later. Legally binding settlement, $285,000. My legal bills, the stolen $210,000 principal, plus 13 years of aggressive Massachusetts state rate statutory interest were included. To pay it, my parents took out a big, high-interest second mortgage on the house. After receiving the wire transfer, I called the bank to cancel the Oak Creek Family Revocable Trust. They must stop paying my parents' mortgage forever. 2 hefty mortgage payments, no safety net, and a father with absolutely no income have drowned them. What about the $285K settlement? I immediately invested $100,000 in David and my wedding and house fund. I invested $100,000 in an aggressive index fund for retirement. With the remaining $85,000, I did something special. A secure trust account was opened for Chloe. Not because Chloe deserved a great sum. She was always pampered and blind. Because I've always helped people, even at expense. 6 months ago, sitting on David's couch with an ice pack on my face, I vowed never to let my mother's mad greed define me. I wanted to safeguard. Being smarter was needed to protect people. Texting the routing number and account information to Chloe Reed, "This is your half of what was left. There are absolutely no conditions. Do whatever you want with it." 20 minutes later, she called me sobbing. After 5 minutes of crying on the phone, I couldn't understand anything. Catching her breath ruined her voice. "I swear to God, Claire, I didn't know about any of it," she said. "The mortgage, the student loans, the inheritance. None of it. Liam broke off our engagement last week when he found out my parents were broke. He just packed up and left me." "I know, Chloe," I whispered. Not surprised about Liam. The rat escaped a sinking ship. Laughing, How do you just do these massive things for people without ever taking credit? How did you pay my loans and never throw it in my face?" I considered. "Because I was raised in a house that taught me love meant violently controlling people with money," I said, "and I decided a long time ago that I was going to do the exact opposite. I'm still trying to figure out which parts of my empathy are healthy and which parts are just trauma." She was quiet forever. Stated, "I am going to be different, Claire. I am going to get a real job, I want to be different." I said, "Okay," gently. She asked, Is that enough?" Like a scared child. "It's a start," I said, hanging up. Only late October did my mother call me. I checked the caller ID and left it for voicemail. Her 5-minute voicemail was rambling and said sorry twice. Both times, the phrase was purposely included in a lengthy, deceitful narrative about how things could have been handled so differently if you had just communicated with me better, not an apology, the last breath of a narcissist who exhausted his victims. Never called back. I deactivated her number and blocked her from everything, and I doubt I'll speak to her again. My husband David and I married early November. We rented a beautiful, refurbished ancient farmhouse in Vermont's hills instead of a huge, stressful wedding, very little, accurate, and gorgeous. Only 25 guests came, no huge floral arch or champagne flute rentals. Cedar wood smoke, hundreds of candles, and a massive family-style dinner till almost 1 a.m. My dad came. Driving alone, he arrived. He sobbed into a handkerchief in the wooden chair back row during the wedding. He skipped reception speeches. He didn't dwell on guilt that night. He thanked me for letting him gently help David's mother carry the heavy porcelain dinner plates to the kitchen. I felt allowed to have my first family gathering in 33 years. I got up early the day following the wedding. David brewed coffee at the farmhouse. Real coffee. High-end dark roast that demands precise grinding and brewing. We brought mugs to the wooden wraparound porch. Cold November morning air hurt our wool coats. We saw Vermont's tree-lined fog from the porch swing. Let the steam on my face rise as I held the ceramic mug with both hands. Ceramic heat hit my left face above my jawline's little pink scar. My skin softly absorbed the mug's warmth to my chest. Quite warm, just soothing heat, totally nothing else. David kissing my head and pulling me close to his chest made me feel better.